Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on December 22nd, 2021. Just coming up on Christmas, and as I guess with Biden in office, I guess we're just thankful to still be here. So it hasn't all collapsed yet. But before we get into anything on the show, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Abbott. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So in this episode, we wanted to focus a little bit. Things have kind of been crazy here on Earth the last couple of years. So we actually wanted to discuss on a little bit of out of this world liberty. Some things, going out into, things like Mars, SpaceX, and all that. So to jump right into that, let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk, because he is the CEO of not just Tesla, but of SpaceX as well. And there's been a lot of innovation there happening in recent years. But one of the more interesting things, and as exciting as some of the SpaceX stuff sounds, is the fact that he said a lot of things that sound suspiciously minarchist. And now, which is, for you people out there who might not be familiar, that minarchist is sort of minimal amount of government necessary, and so it's getting pretty close to being like a libertarian type with some of his statements. Now, it's kind of funny because Elon Musk has benefited from lots of subsidies and other government action, and he says some things occasionally that sound like he's for some government funding of things like science efforts and other things like that. But he has also said a lot of things critical of government in the recent year or so, and it was he even moved his headquarters for Tesla out of California, and I believe one of the legislators even tweeted "F Elon Musk." Yes. Protesting them shutting down his facilities. Yeah, he made a quite remarkable statement, which shouldn't seem that remarkable, but in these times it is. And he was on Joe Rogan's show, and he said, "Look, if you want to have stuff, you got to make stuff," which seems to just be elusive knowledge for lefties nowadays. I think they just assume stuff happens. But he said a lot of other interesting things as well. He has attacked wokeness in a recent article with the Babylon Bee, and essentially saying that it is extraordinarily toxic and divisive. And he even attacked Gavin Newsom a little bit, confirming he's the U-Haul Salesman of the Year. And he said California used to be the land of opportunity. Now it has become the sort of land of overregulation, over-litigation, and scorn. And he also said, too, that they should just kill Biden's Build Back Better a few weeks ago before Manchin actually did it. So, anyways, do you guys want to jump in on some of this? Elon Musk, kind of an interesting guy, a lot of interesting projects, and he seems to be maybe waking up to liberty a little bit.
I just want to add on to what you said, where he was quoted as saying, if you want to buy stuff, you have to make stuff. And that's just another economic principle that's just lost on so many people, that voters on the left and politicians on the left. Again, they're just liars, and they're professional liars. And so whether or not they actually believe their lies is totally a different subject. But they focus on consumerism, and consumerism is 70% of the economy. So they completely ignore the requirement to have investment in the production of stuff. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to consume anything if it doesn't already exist. And to make it exist, you have to have investment, and that requires a level of savings. You can't just in debt, everything. And when a regular person goes into debt to build a company, to build a widget, they do so with pre-existing dollars. They don't conjure it up out of thin air like the central bank does. They actually are still part of the economy that exists, as fragile as it is, and so they're not creating issues by creating more currency. They're just borrowing something that's already been created. That's a very important issue. And so that money that they are borrowing is in essence, because the person loaning it, whether they are just loaning it from their savings account or their checking account at the bank unknowingly or not, it's an investment. Okay, and it's part of the economy. So again, if you want to buy stuff, you have to first make it, and you have to make the machines that make it, and you have to create you have to build the building that it's made in, and so on and so forth. So anyway, so I favor policies that are conducive to that, and those are freedom-based policies. What do you say, Leon?
Well, I mean, some of the things Elon Musk have been saying lately, I really do like, but I don't know if this is just a convenient conversion to the liberty-mindedness of what we consider true liberty, because Musk benefited quite a lot from the government and its lagasse. I mean, he's the largest manufacturer. His company Tesla is the largest manufacturer of electric cars, and one of the big part of that was the subsidies that he received as a result of all the subsidies that the purchasers of his cars have received, which was probably part of his planning. So I mean, I like what he's saying. It sounds good. Many of his statements sound like the kind of things that we as liberty-minded people will tend to say or tend to believe or tend to accept. But I hope it's not a convenient conversion. That's all. I really do hope and pray it is not.
Well, and to jump on that part of convenience too, one of the reasons he may have dissed the Build Back Better a little bit is because Joe Biden has been, pushing a lot of electric, but he's not pushing electric for Tesla. He's pushing electric for GM and all of the unionized manufacturers out there. Yes. And I think, some of Elon Musk plants, maybe all of them, I'm not sure, are unionized. But the point is that for some reason, Biden appears to be favoring GM and some of his competitors. In fact, they even had a conference recently on electric vehicles, and the biggest electric car manufacturer, Tesla, wasn't invited by Biden. So I mean, this does go to show you that there's some issues here. So, some of this convenience, but I tell you, some of the stuff's been kind of refreshing too. I mean, the idea that, he came out and he said, hey, I support vaccines, but I don't support mandatory vaccinations or, forcing people to get a vaccine to go to work type of thing, So, I think some of these are really positive things to hear somebody of his stature say, because, there's a lot of lefties who've sort of admired him for his push on electric vehicles. So, if there's some way to sort of get some of these ideas into their heads, I guess more power to them.
One of the big phenomena that have been ongoing, I guess, I don't know when it really started, is to see all these millionaires and billionaires who have created their wealth through the free enterprise system, where liberty is so much a part of. They created their wealth through it, through capitalism, and then they turn around and they're nothing but a bunch of socialists. I mean, real socialists. I mean, like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. I mean, some of these guys, I mean, you just go down the list and you see all of these guys that are entrenched on the left. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, for that matter. I mean, all of Silicon Valley, for that matter. You could probably say are nothing but a bunch of leftists. But they created their wealth through the capitalist system, where you would think liberty should be liberty and freedom should be the goals to which we must all strive. But no. And so, I mean, I am so happy to see Elon Musk, I mean, making these statements that he's making, about killing Build Back Better and some of the other things that he's been saying. I mean, the vaccine, certainly the vaccine issue that you just raised, Jason. But I just wonder if some of this is not a matter of convenience. That's all. That is what temper my that hold me back from a full endorsement of some of these things that is now being said by Musk and some of the other people that we are hearing about.
Well, one of the things that Musk is doing, and we talked about this a little bit, is SpaceX, and that is sort of taking some of his ideas off the planet. He has a plan to go to Mars by 2022, or not 2022, rather, within a decade, excuse me. Yeah. And so that's kind of exciting stuff. But one of the things this starts to bring into play is, what are the, who controls space? Is it government? Which government? Or private individuals? Is there kind of a homesteading thing going on out there? If Musk gets to Mars first with a program, does he get to sort of set the rules there? But same thing maybe if he captures an asteroid or something. And this is one of the things that's kind of interesting, because he was talking about sort of a constitution for the first city he envisions on Mars, and he imagines it being highly democratic by the people who live there, not the people who live here on Earth. And so that's kind of interesting. It's not exclusively libertarian, I guess, because we're a little bit concerned with just completely democratic things too, where the tyranny of the majority, just a lot of people voting to take your stuff. But what do you guys think about that? The rules on space. And by the way, let me preset that. There was the current rules were developed in the 60s, when they only envisioned government would be the only one out there, which shows the short-sightedness of the planners back then. So, you guys have any thoughts on that, or you want to?
Well, go ahead, Leon.
Tim, you want me to go?
No, go ahead.
Oh. Well, I like what Elon Musk is attempting to do is to put in place some sort of constitutional provisions where private or non-governmental organizations can develop, and there'll be some rules of engagement, if we end up colonizing Mars or something like that. But I don't see how we could avoid some sort of conflict in space, and thus conflict in any colony that is developed outside of planet Earth. Because I am sure if we are going out there, the Russians are going to go out there. I am sure the Chinese are going to go out there, and all of them and all of them have concepts of governance that far differ from ours. So some of the same conflicts that we see on Earth, I think we will see out there in space and on Mars, if we start to colonize Mars, or on any other planet where we end up. That this same sort of conflict that we have down here, I think is going to end up being projected into space, and then God knows what's going to happen. I don't see how this will not end in some sort of war at some point in time. I hope to God we don't destroy ourselves and destroy Earth in the process. But I don't see how this does not end in war, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Gosh, look at the history of any kind of undeveloped, lawless, non-government land like the American West when it was,
right.
Up for grabs. And
sure.
I don't know, unless there's Martians up there, Martian Indians, there probably won't be initial warfare, but there's definitely going to be something that's going to occur in the land grab, like any other land grab, and there's probably going to be disputes, and those may end up in warfare because that's just kind of the tendency of human beings. When all else fails, start shooting. So, yeah, I think that's a legitimate concern, and I don't know what the answer is either, because the only kind of law you could place over it would be something from an entity of a government, I guess, unless like he says, Elon says, you can have these private entities reach contractual agreements with other people and other governments, as far as that goes.
Yeah. Well, this does bring into light, you mentioned Martian Indians or something like that, right? Yeah. But I mean, that's not as far-fetched as it sounds, in the sense that we're assuming that we set the rules out there in space, right? But right. Who's to say, if there are other intelligent beings out there, why don't they have a claim on Mars, or even land on Earth, for that matter, right? And what's to stop us from having a claim on whatever planet they're from? It seems to me, if that some of those basic ideas of homesteading, the fact that somebody is there first, really make a lot of sense in that scheme of things, at least of saying, if maybe somebody's rights should be respected a little more than somebody else's imagined rights to that land. So I don't know. And it's funny too, at what point, if governments lag far behind private industry, at what point can government really just, they can sit there and make all the rules they want, but if they're bound to Earth, and if you got some entrepreneurs flying around out there, then, who's to say that, they can just set a fiat rule here on Earth to say what the rules are going to be everywhere else.
I mean, Jason, everything you're saying to me, everything that you're saying right now speaks to the point I was trying to originally make, that I don't see how this thing will not end in conflict, because just like Tim said, it's like the American West when it was being developed, right? Conflict, whether it's between, the Americans who came later, and then the Indians who were there earlier on, or the Mexicans who owned California and parts of Texas. I mean, no matter how you go about it, some sort of conflict is going to arise. How you resolve it? The only thing we know to resolve that is war. So I don't know why this will not end in war. Quite frankly, that is my big concern.
Yeah, it's funny though. Somehow we managed to avoid a lot of war here on Earth. I mean, we do have some war, but as we've more globalized, we seem to make things work a lot, even if we shake our fists at the other guy. Fair amount of time.
Good point. Yes, good point.
But one of the things too is, it does kind of strike me that, man, we've had a hard time getting a libertarian society kicked off here on Earth. Maybe that's our best hope, is to go out to another planet and start something. But one of the things this takes me to a little bit too is, the old show Star Trek that a lot of us grew up on, and in Star Trek, there's a lot of us grew up as seeing that as good. This idea of a good government going out there and being in charge of, this federation, right? And them setting the rules and telling everybody how it's going to be, and they seem to be benevolent, and the shows are generally heroic and all that kind of thing. But on the other hand, the structure is kind of top-down central planning. And it also assumes, too, that there's no scarcity out there, for them, that they've developed these magical energy crystals that, they can just replicate whatever they want. So there's no scarcity. And yet all these people decide to work and follow orders on this ship, which I'm not quite sure why, if there's no scarcity. But, anyways, you guys have any thoughts on that? Maybe we could bring up the article, too, here real quick. There we go. So just in case you're not familiar with Star Trek, this is a mainstay from the 60s on television. So,
well, I have seen all of the classic Star Trek, the one with Captain Kirk. William Shatner, I should say. His character was Captain Kirk. I've seen all of the episodes, and I've seen quite a bit of The Next Generation also with Patrick Stewart, who was Captain Picard on the show. And I mean, honestly, it was very entertaining, but it's nothing but leftist nonsense, quite frankly, okay? And you could hear it all the time, like the elimination of all material wants. We don't have that anymore. And just as you you said, Jason, the central planning is big. Groupthink is big on the show because the Federation, like, is always right. They always have things under control. They always have everything properly figured out, and everybody follow along with no problems. I mean, like I said, it's entertainment, but it's nothing but leftist nonsense. And even sometimes it's expressed on the show, because like one time Patrick Stewart, who is Captain Picard on the show, he said one time they were talking about something about going visit another planet or something like that, and he said something like very passionately, like, this is why the right to choose is so important. Now, I know we libertarians have a big disagreement about abortion. He was speaking about abortion. I mean, he didn't say that. You know, I mean, it was in the context of wherever they were going and all that kind of stuff. But he was clearly sending out signals to the pro-choice, supposedly, crowd in Hollywood and around the country. So Star Trek was nothing but leftist crap, quite frankly, really and truly. If you go deeper, it was very entertaining. I enjoyed these series from an entertainment point of view. But if you're taking a little dive deeper philosophically, leftist garbage, quite frankly.
Tim, you got any thoughts on flying outside of the atmosphere and going through space?
Yeah, my only question is, did that right to choice include whether or not to put a vaccine into your body? Yeah, I mean, yeah, this whole scarcity thing. I guess that would eliminate a lot of jobs in the industries that take goods that are created in a long, far away place and bring them to the place where they're being consumed. So I would imagine there's going to be a lot of free time brought up. But if you got a replicator machine and you need a Coleman lantern to go camping with, you could just replicate a Coleman lantern and boom, there it would be, and you could take it on your next camp trip. So I guess with that machine, I guess it doesn't use any resources like the metal that goes into the Coleman lantern, that glass thing that goes around the outer edge. And
Tim, I think it's like UBI. It's magical thinking.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when you transport yourself in a Star Trek movie. You just dissolve. You stand over this little circle and you dissolve, and you instantly get transported someplace far away. And then if they can get you back, they'll bring you back the same way. So that's all. That's all really good drama, like Leon says. It's interesting and fun to watch, but really don't think that's in the realm of physical possibility, personally, including the replicator.
Yeah, it's true. And even on the show, talking about the expression of leftist crap, even on the show, they had a group of people known as the Ferengi, I believe, and they really believe in capitalism. Okay, they really do. The Ferengis do.
And they make them the bad guys. Yeah. I was just saying, they make them into bad characters. Their intentions are always bad.
Exactly. They're always bad. I think one time even on the show, Data, who was one of the robots, he was a robot humanoid, and he used to say, he said one time to Captain Picard that, these are the Ferengis. They believe in an outdated modem of capitalism that says let the buyer beware, or some nonsense like that. Something that make them look horrible. Like capitalism is such a terrible thing. So.
Yeah. They make it seem zero sum when it could be farther from the truth. And it's sad they've gone that far into the future and they still haven't figured that out yet.
Exactly.
grows to pi. It's not a zero-sum game over the same size pie. But anyways, we're getting close to the end here. So about time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. And so this time our knucklehead is somebody who supposedly is a conservative. His name's Bill Kristol. He's been on a lot of these shows where, a lefty sort of invites him on like he's the conservative opinion or something. But he recently said something on Twitter that you'd have to think that he's been off-world for the last 10 years to have this idea. So his essentially what he said is, Thanksgiving is about gratitude. In 2021, it's Biden's supporters and liberals who seem grateful for America, for American institutions and ideals, for the American way of life. It's Trumpists and today's conservative movement who seem to be bitterly lacking in gratitude to America. Now, this was apparently the side that was tearing down statues, burning up cities.
Tell me this thing.
And also pro-lockdown of taking people's liberties away. Anyways, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty far out there.
Michelle, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Leon. That's okay. Oh. Go ahead.
Since Trump decided to run for president, before he became president, but since he decided to do this, there have been a bunch of people who have taken on this disease of the Trump derangement syndrome, and they have gone so off the chart, it's unbelievable. And Bill Kristol is one of them. Bill Kristol used to be a solid conservative, somewhat libertarian guy. I think he used to work for Dan Quayle or one of them as vice president when Dan Quayle was vice president of the United States. And this man, he used to write they had a good magazine with Fred Barnes, the Standard, and it's now defunct. But suddenly, Bill Kristol, Trump started to run for president and became president, and Bill Kristol just went off the rails. And they still call him a conservative, but he's not. You look at some of his other utterances, you don't see anything that sounds conservative or libertarian in any of the things that he's saying. This guy is just gone. Total talk about Trump derangement syndrome. It is so evident, and this is unbelievable. It's one thing to disagree with Trump on some of his policies, which I do in some instances, but this man has philosophically gone off the rails because of Donald Trump, and it's just so hard to believe.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to know about Bill Kristol.
Yeah.
How can you say that? It's Biden supporters and liberals who seem grateful for America. Are they grateful for the America of the history of America? By tearing down statues, and are they grateful for the companies and the banks and so on, like the two banks they burned to the ground just really close by me here?
There you go.
Are they grateful for that America? Is that the way they show how grateful they are? Okay, we're up against the clock.
Well, one thing we're grateful for is all you listeners who keep watching our show, and we're certainly thankful to have you there. But our time is up for today, so thanks so much for joining us today, and hope to see you at the next one. Till then, stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness always.